living.
Oh, I'm living in one house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Did I get it right? Eagle Pass, Eagles Wing.
so then my son and his wife and my two other grandsons left in the boat last night. Unfortunately, I had a land bank meeting last night. It was started at 4. We didn't get done until about 7:30 last night, so anyway, that was.
Looking forward to my water. No bad jokes.
Okay,
5.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I call it the meeting of the Nantucket Cemetery Commission to order for Wednesday, August 23rd. Declare we have a quorum present. And can do this, we can vote. First item, public comment. Being in mind. No public comment, as far as commissioner meetings. I had a meeting. And this is just an announcement, this is not an official because I was not an official. Hey, how you doing? I was not officially a member of the committee, so, but I did meet out at Opus Cemetery, and I showed
You met with some.
Lisa. I met with Lisa, and I forgot her last name. And she wants to buy 2 lots. I had met with her earlier when I was legal.
Right.
And I set aside 2 lots for 223 and 24.
Hey, Charlie.
How we doing? Hi, Charlie.
I thought. You didn't get my email?
So what I did, I explained to her that the new lots that we had laid out in the ones that we had laid out. And so she was interested in that, so I gave her a form to fill out, a form, and he's going to get back to me to let me know if she wants some new A or whatever the bill is, up the woods, or in C road. She would like to do. Okay, so anyway, so she's gonna pick out which lot she wants, and she'll let me know.
And I think I've got her name from earlier.
Last name down, Lisa Collins. Okay, so, anyway, I'll check my email and see, because we did exchange emails as well, so.
I could probably find it. Could you say you mentioned her once before?
You're right, she was interested in lots C23 and C24. Those are the 2 lots initially, when those are the only ones we had available. And so she's going to choose the ones on the good side. Okay, next item on our agenda is.
With Charlie here, you figure out when we can talk about the CPC grant. And Mr.
The traffic on Radical Road.
Traffic, I mean.
Behind the slowest truck on the place you hear it.
we were behind
They're on purpose slowing.
an Ellis Island garbage truck, and I figured it had to be empty, but it's still going at 20 miles an hour. Because it pulled into the dump, big trailer.
Yeah, so that company rolled a truck leaving the dump a couple years ago. So now they go about 20 miles an hour from here, from the boat in here up in the double, they don't, yeah.
What's the company, do you know?
He used,
Was it you?
yeah. He Brian, he doesn't drive the truck, one of the drivers, but on that lip, when you come out, if you take that, you kind of go for the ups and downs, if you take with that S turn.
Yeah.
You caught the lip of that left-hand turn with the right side drive tire and just hit the ditch.
Okay, so Charlie, Alan and I were talking about the CPC grant, and so I'm saying he fits it in. I'll also remind you, we've got elected officers.
Yeah, that was my next item, so, let's do the officers first, and then we'll go to the, CPA grant.
And then eventually minutes of the next meeting.
Yes. exactly. So we have, under the new fiscal year, which begins July, or began July 1st, we need to elect new officers. We have a chairman, vice chair, and a secretary. Those are the three positions. And I would entertain nomination.
Well, I haven't had time to campaign, but I nominate Alan for chairman. Lee, you have to do one at a time. Lee for secretary.
And who's vice chair?
Have you done the vice
I
chair?
think so.
Yes. Yes.
Do you want to be?
I'll be the vice chair.
Okay.
I'm willing to, I am willing to be elected. If you guys.
I'll nominate.
Okay, we have a nomination. Is there a second?
Aye.
And any discussion? All in favor?
And somebody had to second, but I didn't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is,
I nominated. You second.
Okay,
oh, right, okay. Yeah. All in favor? Unanimous.
Something have to do it.
Oh, roll call, that's right. We're gonna do
okay.
it. It's been a while.
Okay, roll call.
Okay, roll call. Scotty?
Aye.
Lee? Brand?
I,
Chair votes aye, unanimous vote. That's it. Great. Okay, we do have coming up a deadline, September 6th, for the CPA grant for the,
Yes, we should.
we should.
I'm happy to say that I read the minutes very recently and I see nothing that needs to be
Okay.
changed.
Correct. So we
Do you
have,
move to approve?
I'm sorry?
Do you move to approve?
I move to approve.
And
the
I'll
minutes.
second.
okay, we have a motion, a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Roll call vote,
Yeah.
sorry. Fran,
I,
Scotty,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye,
and chair votes aye. So that's a unanimous vote
thank you.
to approve those June 14th minutes. Okay.
June or July.
no,
Those were in June, because
We
we
didn't
did
have
not.
a chairman.
we didn't have a quorum either.
Yeah, we didn't have a quorum either. And there is, I put later, we'll give a report. We did have a conversation.
That's, yes. Now I recall. We did.
And so anyway, CPA grant, Charlie, how are we doing on it?
Yeah, I'm waiting for, or Scotty. But I need, resume kind of information. For everybody, I think I got Lee's, because if I run a little short, I'm gonna use his full resume.
Oh, I see. So these are.
Yeah, so I sent out a request by email just for,
Did you say one?
yeah,
I didn't know.
it was, after our last,
Did you get mine?
yeah, I did. And so just a brief resume, just like kind of was interest. Somebody,
You sent it to me, did you ever get an answer?
I'm not sure, I gotta go, I haven't all, I haven't saved.
If you got it, just remind me. of
I
what-
will, I'll send them a reminder, 'cause I need a cut, so I've got both the information, or it's missing a few things, so we're gonna people, reach out to, if you get people at the NHA, you know, we need some letters of recommendation, for the funding, that should kind of be the last piece, otherwise, in the process of assembling,
So I have to give you. Chris.
yeah, just like a resume, and I just a little blurb, if you know, your interest in the commission and the restoration work and stuff, and then we'll compile, I'll start compiling and you know, once I get it all put together, I'll send it out
Yeah,
for
and
review.
I think since we have reassurance from Ken that, you know, get it in, it's what we want to do. We should be complete, but not huge, not voluminous.
Yeah.
We keep it nice and tight.
Yeah, I was gonna include, you know, we talked about not including the entire Richard Grubb report, but I was going to include LMC's report from Old North because it includes both before and after photos of the restoration work. So I thought that was a good summary of the work that we've been doing.
Exactly.
Just in case, I'll note, I do have an earmark for the same number of funds in capital planning for next year in case for some reason we've,
If we get them both,
yeah.
we'll expand.
So if we fall, you know, for some reason we don't through with the preservation trust funds, I do have it for capital, which you then process through, you know, town meeting.
Okay, well, that'll be exciting to get that project underway again, you know, and,
So having referenced Ken, does anybody know how he's doing?
He logged into our Parks and Rec Commission meeting last month. He kind of stayed silent, but he did log in, and I understand he has started because he's the Parks and Rec representative on the CPC,
Okay.
and so he is attending those meetings. So he is starting to come back, I think, slowly.
okay. Anything else on CPA?
No, I think that I'm just pleased that it's working in hand.
Yeah, exactly.
So, to Fran, a fellow academic, the full academic resume that I have is something like 17 pages. But I have a one page.
So have I.
Perfectly.
That hits,
All
that
these
hits,
fucking doors.
that hits the highlights.
I got 2 copies from Lee. I got this one. He goes, just you may want to use this for shorter version instead. And I'm like, shorter version, click on a long one. Oh.
I went through the old grant and, while I was in there, while I was that far back in my files, I went back to some of the initial minutes from the Cemetery Commission work group, you know, when we were sort of forming and the issues we were looking at. I said, oh, it's come a long way.
Yeah.
Really, that's right.
So I have a handy way of remembering the name of the consultant who assisted in putting that together. Henry V,
Oh, really?
who fights with me on St. Christopher's Day is my brother. It's David Crispin.
Oh, right, he's. Yeah, actually, I found his phone number too. It's still in my phone. I didn't call him, but,
You would want to know whether we're hiring.
well, exactly.
Fran.
Judy Snow gave this to Barbara White, that Barbara's traveling surgeon. Gave it to me to hand on. It's an article about volunteers who work to take care of neglected cemeteries.
Mhm.
And it's quite an interesting article. So Barbara asked me to bring it to you, and here it is.
Good, all right, well, what I can do is duplicate it and
Send it around everyone.
send it to everyone, so.
Actually, had I thought about it, I could have scanned it and done that, but
Well,
I
yeah,
didn't.
that's right. Okay, thank you. Or
And-
thank Penny.
And the other thing is that, we had asked, we'd asked, a possible new member to come for this meeting,
Oh,
but she is away today, but she said she would like to be invited to the next one. So I'll let her know.
The invitation
Kathy,
is open,
Kathy,
because for open meetings, just come.
well, I know, but she would like to be
to
particularly
be
invited.
invited.
Yeah.
Kathy, let you know.
By all means.
We do need to look to younger people and see what we can do to make it possible for younger people to take part. But if we have somebody who's really interested in what we do, we should encourage any kind of interest, I think.
Well, for a brief while, Curtis Barnes was coming. When I say a brief while, 2 or 3 meetings, so it'd be 2 or 3 months.
Mhm.
We either satisfied his needs or completely distressed him because he quit.
Well, no, but I was thinking that Kathy might actually be able to join us if we end up with a vacancy, because she has a lot of skills that she can bring along.
Exactly. All right, well, I know Kathy, I know her husband as well as in fellow Master
Of
Masons.
course, yes, yes.
So, I will speak with her and I'll extend an invitation to our September, no,
He will be sometime.
whatever, our next meeting.
It is, the next
Yeah,
one
this
is
next
September.
September. Okay. Next
For
item,
which, I'm trying to think, I may be away.
Sorry?
It's September 14th,
13.
13th.
change.
Yeah, I'm traveling.
Where's in this?
Lexington, Kentucky for the mid-year meeting of the SME Board of Directors and the Health and Safety Division Executive Committee.
Sounds like fun.
We'll also be acquiring PDHs for that. Professional development hours for my licenses.
It'll be on the updated resume, Charlie.
Oh, the licenses are definitely present.
Okay, we have, next item, approval of lot sales since last meeting. There have been no sales of lots since the last meeting. And, I have had several inquiries. I did meet this person, Lisa, up there, and she was deciding which lots she wanted. And also we have, so Tammy,
Tanya.
Hmm?
Tanya Elder.
yeah, Tanya Elder.
She isn't coming back to Nantucket till October. So.
Yeah, I got an email from her because I told her I would hold.
Is this the name I need to write down?
Tanya Elder. And I think she was in the last, the June.
In the June.
Yeah, I think she was in the June. I had met her at the cemetery and explained to her the lots we had available then. And I explained to her that we were laying out additional new lots next to the woods. And she said, well, let me think about it. And I said, don't worry.
She did have a preference.
Yeah, right. So I told her I would put a hold on the two lots that she was interested in. So. Okay, Nash burial. We had Peter Nash buried at New North Cemetery on August 4th.
What was his name?
Peter
Peter,
Nash.
Peter.
Peter Nash.
And my nieces reported to me from across the street.
All right.
I mean, they live across Franklin Street, and
Yes.
it's not often that something happens in the cemetery.
Right, yeah.
But when it does,
There's a loader in there, yeah.
Burial of New North, what day?
Yes. Yeah. New North.
What day?
August
Oh,
4th.
August 4th.
I got it.
So that all worked. It did take several trips up to the cemetery too.
I think we all made our up there.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I met the family up there. I met Sally Nash, who's in a wheelchair and wheeled her, around. And you got everything straight. I put flags in where the hole was to go and all that sort of thing. So, and everything went fine. And when I was up there the next day, they had filled in the hole and everything went well. A successful in
And I presume that was a plot, a family plot. That been
Yes.
organized sometime.
Yeah, they had purchased it back in the 70s, and as it turns out, it was right next to the George Folks plot that I had to track down through Ricky's hand-drawn map. Anyway, so anyway, that was successfully taken care of. And I didn't write down the lot number in New North, but
I can find it if I have to.
next item, commission finances, accounts, update, and all that sort of thing. We're in the new fiscal year do we have to do anything, or what, let me put it this way, what do we have to do?
Not much. So the funds that we requested to be moved from cemetery lot sales have moved into an operating account.
Right.
So that is set up, $70,000 transferred.
Oh, good, so we actually have money available that we can say.
Oh, yeah.
We could vote and say, we're gonna do this, and it's gonna cost X number of dollars, and take it out of our account.
Oh, nice.
Wow, this is the first.
Yeah, I think that the first thing we were gonna do with that is, was Quaker Cemetery.
Yes.
So I actually just, get the signed version of that contract back, so that'll be for, the select board doesn't meet again until September.
That's right. We're taking a week off.
Yeah, taking 2 weeks off for summer breaks. When they come back, we'll have an executed contract, and LMC will be out here. I'm assuming probably later September, October, when they can get scheduled, and then we'll commence work on the 40 stones
Nice.
in Quaker.
Right.
40.
Yes, or it'll be approximately 40. It's all they're going to touch all the stones, so not all need to be adjusted. But as we discussed, they're going to D2 solution,
Yeah.
all of them, so we don't look like we have 13 very bright white teeth, and some double. So all the stones will be getting D2
Good.
solution.
Good, well, that, as we discussed before, it's one of our highest visibility cemeteries. Everybody on the word of it goes by.
We talked about doing that one for years.
I know, that was the first one we were gonna do.
That was where we did the pilot project with the D2.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So from there, we'll move on, well, I guess we'll depend on the funding we have.
So there are some options that we
Yeah.
have. With the money in the account, I estimate I had we could do the historic color cemetery for I believe about 35,000 for the repair work. That would, I didn't count all the stones, not D2ing everything, but the actual repair work.
Right.
Would come in about $35,000. So if we wanted to immediately move forward with that and use that operating funds, we could, and I would just withdraw that amount that we're requesting from, or we could leave it in for the CPC for the total amount, and then we'll need bigger funds for New North and Newtown, because they're considered, there's 78 stones in one and like 81 in another that need actual repair. So they'll be in the neighborhood of $140,000 worth of work between those two, and then if we add in kind of D2 every stone there, that number will increase.
Okay, well, good, that's, this is one of our major projects that's been underway for a while.
Well, we do want to do that, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Um,
Do we vote that?
I think, Scott, you just proposed, and I've seconded a motion that we do historic color as soon as we know the cost for Quaker. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have an estimate, a high level estimate from LMC that I use to rebid everything. Because it's, because of CPC funds, it takes a while once you get through that process for price of things rising up. So I use a higher level number to estimate those costs of about $900 a stone, which gives us flexibility. That's a high level number that he was comfortable with, that I could use for kind of estimating purposes. Historic color, because it should come in at about 35,000. If we decide to do it, we'll have to go out to the public bid process, so we could see how that may come back. We could then find numbers higher, numbers lower, and at that point we could bring those open bids back to the commission and say, hey, the low bid ended up being 50,000. We think that's too much. Let's look at the scope of work, or however we'd like to proceed.
So
So from here,
so
moving,
there's a motion, and it's been seconded that we go forward with historic color.
Historic
cemetery.
color,
Yes.
as soon as we have all the details for the cost of Quaker.
But there has been a motion introduced, it's been seconded, so shall we have a vote,
Yes, thank you.
a roll call vote?
So we have the final number for Quaker.
Who you do?
Yeah, that number is that contract is signed and ready to go. It's about $9,200
Oh, okay.
to do that. So
So basically, we have subject to final adjustments, we have more than enough money for historic color.
Yes, if you'd like to be historic out of the operating budget,
Yes,
I can prepare that, I can prepare those documents for procurement
Yes.
tomorrow.
That's the motion.
that's
That's
the
not-
motion.
That's too bad. Right, yeah,
And that's the one we're voting on.
and we discussed that, and that was our
Yeah.
plan, was to move from the record secretary to historic colors. And
So let's vote.
so let's vote, is motion,
Aye.
no, the motion?
No, the motion's.
Oh,
It's a
We
second.
have a motion and a second,
Yeah,
excellent, so the vote is for
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
aye.
aye, chair votes aye.
Okay.
Start the procurement process.
Yeah, that's great.
While we're on the topic of procurement items,
Okay, so Quaker is 9,000.
yeah, now about $9,200 or so.
Okay. Budget, if I recall, is 70.
70 is what is in the operating account.
So,
All right, so that,
6,800 should be more than enough.
It should be, yes.
Okay.
And again, when we get the open bids,
Correct.
we'll hold an award. I'll talk to Elise procurement if we wanna try to time the opening to maybe just before one of our meetings. Usually these things go out be posted for at least 2 weeks. Maybe we'll post for a month because we're pretty close to our September meeting, so we'll probably post for a month, see if we can get the opening date, a day before our commission meeting. That way we can review prices, or can at least report to you what came back. That
And you
way,
said, speaking of procurements, did you have another thing?
I was say I had looked into the flagpole,
Oh, yeah.
so I called Iron Lumber and I'm gonna have to do some digging.
Okay.
I kind of got a what for who
What?
from them. They're oh, do you have a purchase order number? And I'm all right. That'll require some.
Okay, so this is the flagpole.
This is
that
the
we-
flagpole that was reportedly ordered
yeah,
some years ago that was just sitting at Island Lumber. So I gotta dive into the accounting software to see if I can locate a purchase order. And I started to, and unfortunately, a lot of the purchase orders aren't labeled as to what I can pull up all the Island Lumber purchase orders, but they don't necessarily say like flagpole or shingles. It just
Yeah,
says
an amount.
an amount and a number. So I got into
Yeah.
dive in a little deeper.
Well, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
that,
that'll probably take a back seat to the CPC.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
it. True.
Well, there's another problem.
the procurement officer for the town is the one who alerted me to the fact that the flagpole is out there. And I've forgotten her name, do you remember?
Elise,
Yeah, but I.
Oh, yeah,
Didn't that person just change? Retired and replaced? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. I think I mentioned maybe in those June minutes. Anyway, whoever the procurement officer is came up to me. This was a couple of months ago at a funeral at funeral. And she's the one who told me two things. She's the one who pointed out that the monuments that the VFW was putting up were for the flags, not for
There was
stones.
little brass
Yeah.
plaques.
And she also mentioned the
That wouldn't have
flag.
been Jonah Duat, would it?
Hmm?
That wouldn't have been Jonah Duat, would it?
It might have been actually,
Okay.
Jana, yeah,
Because I was in Finland and I actually got a phone call in Finland from her.
really?
Yeah, and she was a little astonished to discover that she was making a call to Finland.
Ah,
Yeah,
so anyway, yeah,
Well, I was just gonna remind everybody that when the flagpole came down, this was right at the entrance to Newtown. It was about the same time that we were getting information from the ground penetrator radar that there are graves everywhere.
Mhm.
And it's.
so we
not-
can't
it's
just put one up where it was.
Where it was
because
before.
we
It's
don't-
my instinct that we need to be assured that the town supports ownership of the cemetery. Which quote Ken, I don't think it's high on Vicky Marsh's, to-do list. Okay, because then we could get, the remainder of the ground, survey, ground penetrating survey. And we could also clean up to Nantucket Auto
Well, I think
But
that-
it's still a good idea to find this, tag it, and perhaps move it to a town.
If we could bring it out,
Yeah,
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 would be
yeah,
the ideal
yeah.
thing, so we.
Get it here on site.
I've got those organizations to be very impatient with us spending an awful long time before putting out a flagpole. So
Well-
we need to do this as expeditiously as possible. And I think, being low priority for months and months, really somebody should just fly an elbow and say, this is a very brief thing that has to be done. And do it.
Yeah, I know.
Well, now that, I was about to say, now that nobody's gonna say we're getting ready for a town meeting, but they are, they're getting ready for a special town meeting, that's not so November. Alan, and I'm gonna think a little bit before I write anything down. But we've got to get to the select board and say, it needs to happen.
Yes,
Ken's illness, prevents us from learning what he would counsel. Because he'd been thinking about it, and he was the one who was in touch with council's Vicky Marsh. I go way back when John, Giorgio said, well, yes, if it's been a cemetery for 100 years, and we can validate that, it's a cemetery. What was the other one?
She's leading by 4, correct?
That was a big one. It's been a cemetery for 100 years. Oh, and if we know that that it's an active cemetery, so, 100 years, the assessor's map of 1913 shows it.
well, here we are,
Yeah.
yes.
So, yeah, I
How
was,
do we get to your members of the select board? Should I just talk to Matthew?
Well, there are several ways. One is to speak casually and ask, so that it doesn't look like we're pushing too hard. Ask his advice on how best to present this issue. Because we've been waiting and waiting and waiting.
I had a meeting this morning, a water commission meeting with Libby and Matt and, Vicky Marsh, I said. And,
What is the verb remain? What is it that we have to do about cemeteries? It's certified?
The town has to accept ownership.
Oh,
Has to verify and validate that it is a cemetery.
Do we need a
Not
portable survey for
the
that?
cemetery, not that piece of it,
What's that?
not the entire Newtown cemetery, but that piece of it.
No, all of it.
the whole, yeah,
The whole thing, yeah. It was confused by the town meeting of 1998. And Alan and I never accused Andrew Vorse of making a huge, almost impossible to fix mistake. But they subdivided the cemetery into 4 plots, with the biggest being what they thought was the cemetery. One of the smallest is that walkway, which was going to become a road, and then a plot on either side. So it's 36, 38, 40, 42 Sparks Avenue, with 44 being Nantucket Auto Body. Maybe it's close.
well, it is important to get that straightened out. In fact, I think it's a higher legal priority than both the cemetery.
In many ways.
And, well, anyway. So we do need to clarify the title and, whatever it is. The 4 corners are marked on that one, I believe. We've got, there are these concrete bounds. And
Well, if I get Matt's ear and I explain it as we've been discussing it now, to whom should I refer him? Should it be to? He's going to want more information.
I'd be happy to chat with him as well. Eventually, our choices are to wait for Ken to come back and for Ken to negotiate with Vicky Marsh. For Alan, to enter into an agenda, select board agenda under committee reports. Or for me to stand up as a private citizen at, public comments.
Right. Okay, well, we'll definitely follow up on that. As I say, I think that's pretty high legal priority as we're just clarifying, where we are. Also, related to that is, Newtown Cemetery is where the flagpole is gonna go. We had talked about doing a parking area down next to,
That's all gonna have to be redone, Alan, because they're graves there.
well, yeah, but regardless, we do need to do whatever we're going to do to figure out where we're gonna, where the flagpole goes, where a possible parking area might be, access and all that. We had talked about closing off the access on Sparks Avenue because we didn't want people driving in there like they used to. Football games and stuff, and that's how some of the monuments got backed over. So anyway, we do need to do some work up at Newtown in terms of figuring out what the layout and what we're gonna do up there. But in the meantime, the monuments we can go ahead with, eventually.
Yeah.
Whenever we
I
get
don't
to.
really see how we could go ahead with restoration and cleaning until this is.
Yeah, right, we
Until
really
we can
do need
move it.
to get the grounds sorted
And
out.
that's an important point, that now that we have a budget and we're applying for CPC grant, we're not that far off from wanting to fix the stones.
Right.
With respect to the bounds, they may have been placed because of the private lands that are, it was Allen and Resendez and Bacchus, they all own land around the cemetery. And their surveyors insisted in putting bounds. Far as I know, and I would turn to our expert here, the cemetery has never been recorded because it was remained part of the common and undivided land of the town and county of Nantucket. And as such, nobody, because it was never conveyed, it was never transferred. I don't think there's a deed for it. That's not true for all of our cemeteries, but I think it's true for Newtown.
It's not true, it's also, the case with the historic code cemetery. Because the permission was granted to fence it, but it was never set off.
Yeah, you probably can quote, if not, we can find it. So the select board meeting, or proprietors meeting, where they said we'll set off an acre more or less for burial. At which point they called it something.
The town now has almost all the shares in the common and land, so.
We need a survey of record. I think we've spoken on that before in order to get.
Once there's an agreement, we should move forward. Yes, we should have a recordable survey and we'll get it into the registry.
I might make a couple phone calls, find out what that would cost, and maybe work it into the CPC
Good.
funds. If it will be outside, well, maybe in future operating budgets.
I think in the initial CPA work, that was part of what we were going to do, wasn't it? To do a something at Newtown. I mean, that was the early.
That was the hope. That was the hope.
Yeah, I know. Well, okay, we'll get to that one.
So, Fran, I did a thorough, mostly thorough, deed search. Right back, because Andrew was convinced that there was a set-off that chopped into the cemetery. And he tried to chase it down, and I think it went to the Myrick family. Very prominent in town. Because the early deeds were not referenced to a meridian or any kind of comprehensive index map, they were always referenced to the neighbor.
Yeah.
The land now, or once upon a time, next to the Saperstein Knot, and that it meant it was difficult because I couldn't find what happened to the set off. It went to Coffin male, died prematurely in his 40s. His widow and several others had to petition the probate court to be allowed to file probate, and then they sold everything because it was a massive depression in the 1830s.
I remember the story well, now that you bring it up.
So it's my thinking that the set off, and maybe a surveyor can look at these old deeds, I made copies of them, that the set off was another piece of common and undivided land, of which there was lots. And they set it off for somebody to have either a house lot or a farm.
Not much land left out there. For town.
Could we go on to the conversation that I missed because I was in Finland?
Oh, yeah, we will, and,
Yeah, it's coming up.
yeah, it is, I've got it here. So that takes care of capital operating budgets and so on. Anything else on that one? Old, new, other business, and, two things. First, the Pocus layout. Scotty and I were up there back in, a couple of months ago, it seems like years ago.
Yesterday.
And we did lay out the, extension of lots A through G. We did, lot 2 through 8. The lots that were there started at 9, so we did those adjacent lots. And those are,
What, you put pins in the ground?
yeah, we put the pins in the ground. I've got to say, Scotty was.
We're about 60% sure we did it right.
Yeah. Well, I had.
No, we are right on the,
Yeah, I don't.
we had strings everywhere.
I was up there all by
So
myself.
it was not a job for one person.
Oh,
And
you don't remember what day it was?
yeah, I'm
It was a
gonna,
Saturday, wasn't it, Alan?
I don't remember. I probably looked up my calendar, but anyway, we did that. We got those sections in the ground. We still have the discs for all the other ones to do, but
Oh, that's right, you were telling
This
me.
is
they
great,
were-
Charlie. They worked well. They're missing about 4 or 5.
They were in a
Yeah.
big box and you had to sort them out, so.
yeah,
that-
Yeah, no, but they were sorted according to the grid, which was great
Oh, okay.
because, and you had to be laser focused on it because you're in the zone. If you start thinking about something else, you're like, okay, how does this work again?
Secretary's puzzle, and that's what Charlie. is
Some
doing.
were
He was-
misstamped. Just worked for me.
What Saturday did you?
I haven't found it yet.
Yeah, okay.
And I have the numbers.
Okay.
I mean, will they do individual ones? Yeah, okay, I'll email you that. Because I think there was 8 that either had the same
Right.
number.
Yeah, there
Four
was
numbers.
some,
Yeah,
I think 2 of the numbers better than
Or,
right,
yeah.
and the other 2 were.
but
Anyway.
they did the same number twice.
So we could, we'll get that out.
You can see how that could happen.
Oh, yeah.
You probably should give them to Charlie in case we can get a credit.
Yeah,
Well, let's, as I said, once we get it out, but it was really great having Scotty there who
Knew how to wield a hammer.
twist this. Well, it was not just wielding the hammer, I mean, I was doing fine with that, but it
you
was,
were a hammer guy. It was the layout.
yeah, it was the layout. One of the things with hammering him in the ground, the bolt top that keeps the lens from spinning around is square. So when you're driving it into the ground, you have to, because the screw the bolt that you're banging into the ground is twisting and so on. So you've got to make sure before you do those last couple of pounds that.
Did you have a driving shoe?
What do we use? Just rubber
Just
hammer.
a hammer, yeah.
Rubber hammer.
Yeah, I had a
And when you get close to the ground, then you're like,
Yeah,
it was Friday, it was a Friday.
Friday.
And it
that's
was
right.
probably a week or two after the meeting in July.
Gentlemen, I have another meeting I have to go to,
Oh,
and I have
okay.
to leave at 4, and
Okay.
I'm so curious about the
Yes.
conversation.
So the next item is, I would bring up, is the meeting, the informal meeting that Lee and I had on July 12th with
Niles
Niles
Parker.
Parker and Amelia Holmes. They came in and we had pretty lengthy discussion. It must have been, what, half an hour or so?
June 6th.
That's
June or July?
June.
June, yeah. So,
We
Yep.
didn't take notes, but first of all, they were extremely
It
enthusiastic.
should have been July.
Yes, no, June is, putting
Sorry, June's the
markers.
markers.
Oh,
July 12th is.
yeah, July 12th was the meeting that we had with
so
And it-
Amelia and
Niles.
Niles
They
were,
both
Yeah.
were here.
and they were.
They were here for about, I'm remembering maybe about half an hour. And they, we had a general discussion. We gave them some background about what the Cemetery Commission had done about some of our projects, the monument restoration project we talked about. Record keeping is another thing we brought up with them. The importance of record keeping and, can we coordinate? So, the town, we as the Cemetery Commission have records somewhere.
So a cross linkage
Exactly.
of databases so that the Lewis burial records are not the only thing on their website. Because we do now have, for the last few years, for sure, better records. And there may still be a gap period in which we have to rebuild stuff. But they seemed to be interested in the sharing, a link on their website to us, a link on our website to them. Simple things to do.
And the value of this, of course, is that when, say like these calls, the Nashes, okay, I got a call from Sally Nash saying, oh yeah, we bought a plot up in, I think it was New or Old North back in the 70s, and I don't know what the number, blah, blah, all that sort of stuff.
Sounds like the folk situation all over again.
Well, it was, exactly. Fortunately, the lot was right next to the Folks
It
Club.
was so good. Yeah. We get to it.
So, again, it goes back to Ricky's record keeping and the fact that they're,
Well, the NHA website has got reasonably accurate maps of a few of the cemeteries, not only plot by plot, but stone by stone.
right. That's the work that Georgian did, right?
That's right.
She had done a lot of.
And we gave credit to her.
And I have to say, I've been meaning to ask Amelia, because lately when I wanted to see one of Georgia's photos, I haven't been able to locate it on the NHA website. What have they taken it down or what? But
Oh,
I'll ask Amelia about it.
Yeah, they have been doing something with their, because they're working in the archive on First Street and.
So lately when I've gone in, I get a description of stones and the inscription, but I don't get Georgian's photo.
Yeah.
And it's really helpful to look at those. So I intend to ask
You're
Amelia
talking about a photo of an individual stone.
photos of the individual stones.
Are they on Find a Grave or a Billion Graves now?
I haven't looked actually.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be that they were all,
Well, she would have to name the stone and then you would have to look it up. We did also, expanding just a little bit, we did also talk about having some kind of a monument, digital or physical, of people buried at sea.
yes, that's been a project at the NHA, actually at least since James Russell's time. And they were collecting a list And when I last saw the list, I was aware of people who were missing from it, so I think that it has to be an ongoing project.
And so they pointed out that there may be a great difference between lost at sea,
And
shipwreck,
buried at sea.
and intentionally interior or buried at sea.
So it was an interesting meeting, as I said, it was about half an hour, and they drove all the way out here to meet with us, and yeah, I thought it was a good connection, and
I'm finding the NHA under Miles' leadership very responsive.
oh, really, oh, good,
Follow up.
yes.
How do we do follow up? We want to make sure that whatever connection is made informally can be formalized. I'll get it in the minutes now. That you and Fran opened the discussion, and I'm trying to take a few short notes. For example, exchange of links. How do we do that?
I did follow up after the meeting. I saw Niles, I was at an event, and spoke to him, thanked him for taking the time to come and meet with us, and again, they were both, I won't say excited about working with the cemetery commission, but they recognized the value, the historic value, I think, to the NHA of having more detailed records. So they're anxious to work with us for, whatever.
Well, there's been an issue that's been brought up because 2025 is the bicentennial year of the African Meeting House. And we've been talking about all sorts of things that could be done to honor the African community on Nantucket in that year. So there's been a lot of talk about documenting the cemetery walk that Barbara White and I do. And what I would really like to see, and I think we brought it up here, is I'd really like to see a video. And Barbara came up with this brilliant idea of, instead of one or the other of us going from stone to stone and talking about it, to recruit Nantucket community members, including high school students, and for each stone that we discuss in a video documentary, have some member of the community introduce
That's a
the
great
person.
idea.
The problem is that videos cost a bunch of money, and I find the NHA sort of backing off a little and say, well, maybe we have a printed brochure. And I think, no, we don't want a printed brochure. And of course, another thing that we've discussed was actually a QR code in the cemetery. But I really, really intend to put all my energy behind finding a way to do a video as Barbara envisioned it, because on Juneteenth, she had 67 people who showed up for her.
Wow.
Yes, I
cemetery.
was there.
I have had, 2 years ago, I had 41 people come. The following year, in the pouring rain, I still had 15.
Yeah.
And then this year, in good weather, Barbara had 67. So clearly, there's a lot of interest in it. And I honestly do believe that a documentary video engaging a lot of community members would be the way to go, particularly after just seeing the Odison documentary
Which one?
Listen,
a couple of days ago.
Oh,
They
yes,
showed the-
I was there.
Yeah, and I mean,
The land back, of course, now that video was a $40-some thousand production.
That's the going price.
However, I have done videos, with iPhone videos, where I've been the speaker and so on. My daughter, who was director of senior services in town of Franklin, she's done 3 videos of me doing, talking about different properties on the island and so on. And there are other projects like that I've seen where people, it's not, you don't have to be a technical wizard to, operate the iPhone. So it would be possible to do something like that, load it onto YouTube or whatever. I don't do much media, but whatever the social media is out there.
great. thing would be if the school and the video or some
Oh.
kind of department had
Yeah,
projects,
that's a great idea.
assignments that the kids.
You know,
Wanted
the,
to
the
do.
Otterson documentary won a prize at the Nantucket.
Yes,
And,
exactly.
and I think that, we would be really in line for competing for a Nantucket Film Festival prize in the future if we produce something that was well done. And, yeah, asking, the school to be involved in the actual production. I think we would need, I really do think we would need a videographer. We need people who are good at editing.
Yeah.
I think
So,
that, yeah,
I'm just gonna back everybody up from, let's not disparage the brochure, out of hand. Because anything that we do, in print can be digitized easily and rapidly and put onto our website as a basis. Not as the final product, but as a way station.
Congress has already told the NHA that they are welcome to use hers and my integrated script.
Mhm.
They were asking her for it, and she said, well, she'd have to consult with me before she could agree. But we have had a consultation, and we told the NHA that, yes, they can do what they will with our
And
script.
we can put it on our webpage.
Yes.
Easily found with QR code.
However, it would be so much better to do this other thing.
Only as a way station, not as a final product. So just so that we can get something out there quickly.
It could be worth doing some research on what it would cost to do a full production and a little late, I think, for CPC this cycle, but next year,
Yeah.
I think that would be probably right in line.
yeah,
you know,
do something
for-
that
for
one,
something.
because that is professional and what you're saying later on, and another
Yeah.
film festival.
Well, it's amazing how popular the Otisson film is. I mean, it's a full house for on Sunday.
And it wasn't
And that
even
was the third
the
show.
third show.
Fortunately, the after program was a little bit border, but
Heaven protect me from ever having to answer any questions from Eric Goddard.
well, again, it was the moderator who, he should have had more in control as far as pacing the questions, having Carl speak into the microphone.
We do know about people who go on with questions.
Yeah.
But he had, he should have had his questions prepared in advance. He should have gone over them with the Otison so that they would know what questions he was going to ask, so that they would have been prepared to answer. But none of this happened, and I just
I don't
wanted
need to know, but who was the moderator?
Eric Goddard,
Town.
our town crier. Chris Williams' successor.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
I just wanted to flee, but I was in the middle of a row with people on both sides
Get
at
out.
the same time. Oh dear, I have to go. I'm sorry. I'm not
Okay.
reading.
I think we're close to.
I think we are at the end of our agenda. Anything else to come before the commission this afternoon?
No, that's great.
Being none, I declare.
We've been productive.
Yeah.
We've got budgets, we've got contracts, we've got
We did
monuments.
3
to
meetings in
install.
one.
Yeah. All
Okay,
right, well, I declare we're at the end of our agenda then, and the meeting is adjourned.
thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Oh, and
Charlie,
you're so good at
I'll
this.
get you my rap sheet,
Here you go.
okay?
Charlie, thank you.
I didn't read the fine print of the email.
Now,
Yeah.
Charlie,
I'll take one page of lead.
he's a driller
That's
extraordinary.
right, used to be a cowboy. Worked in the gold mines. Gonna give it all, Charlie. Still